Inside every one of us lives a voice. It doesn't shout, it whispers. It tells you what's possible, what's acceptable, what's safe. Sometimes it feels like wisdom. Sometimes it feels like fear. But here's the truth. That voice, that inner judge, is not always yours. It has been stitched together from the commands of parents, the warnings of teachers, the expectations of friends, the silent pressure of society. It becomes the constant commentator on your life, deciding before you act whether you're worthy to try. And the tragedy? Most people never question it. They obey it like law. But ask yourself this: who gave that voice authority? Who appointed it the ruler of your destiny? If you peel back its layers, you'll see it's often nothing more than echoes from the past. An insult from childhood, a disapproving look in high school, a moment you failed once and the memory fossilized into permanent judgment. And now, whenever you're about to step forward, it rises up and says, don't, stay small, stay safe. The first step to liberation is awareness. Begin by listening, really listening. Every time you hesitate, every time you silence yourself, write down the exact sentence that stopped you. Maybe it says, you're not smart enough, or you'll embarrass yourself, or people like you don't succeed at things like this. When you write it down, you drag it out of the shadows and into the light. You stop being a victim of a faceless voice and you start becoming its examiner. Now here's the next move: trace it. Where did this voice come from? Was it your father, telling you not to dream too big? Was it a teacher shaming you for getting an answer wrong? Was it your own fear of failing in front of people you wanted to impress? When you trace it, you realize this so-called inner judge is just an echo chamber of old moments. Moments that no longer deserve to rule you. And once you've named it and traced it, you test it. Take one of its commands and flip it. If it says you can't lead, then lead a small group for 1 week. If it says you'll fail if you speak, then speak for 3 minutes into your phone and watch it back. 9 times out of 10, the catastrophe it predicted never arrives. That's when the power shifts. That's when you realize the judge was never a god. It was a scared child with a gavel, pretending to rule a kingdom it didn't build. Understand this. You are not required to obey voices that do not serve your future. You are required to test them, to challenge them, to strip them of false authority. Every time you do, your independence grows, your confidence thickens, your identity strengthens. The inner judge is not the enemy, it's the first opponent. Defeat it and you'll feel the first real taste of freedom. The freedom to act, to risk, to decide your life not by the echoes of the past, but by the fire of your own will. Comfort is the most dangerous addiction in the world. It doesn't come with a warning label. It doesn't leave bruises. It doesn't announce itself as a threat. No, it whispers sweetly, telling you, you've worked hard enough. You deserve to relax. You can try tomorrow. And just like that, years vanish. Dreams dissolve. Potential rusts in silence. Comfort does not kill suddenly. It kills slowly, quietly, and politely. Think about it. Every person who once had fire in their eyes but settled into mediocrity did so because they bowed before the altar of comfort. They traded possibility for predictability, growth for ease, destiny for routine. And the cruelest part? Comfort makes you feel safe, but in truth it locks you in a cage. A soft, padded, invisible cage. You dismantle that cage the same way you dismantle any structure, brick by brick. The first brick is awareness. Audit your days. Look at where you've chosen ease over growth. That snooze button you hit every morning? That's not harmless, and that's surrender. The project you've been delaying because you're waiting for the right moment? That's not patience. That's avoidance dressed in nice clothes. Write these comforts down. Name them, because what you name you can change. The second brick is deliberate discomfort. Don't wait for life to challenge you, challenge yourself. Wake up earlier than feels natural. Speak when your voice trembles. Push your body past its familiar limit. Start small but be consistent. Why? Because discomfort repeated daily recalibrates the nervous system. What once felt unbearable becomes routine. What once felt terrifying becomes exhilarating. The third brick is reframing. Stop calling it pain. Stop calling it sacrifice. Call it investment. Every act of discomfort buys you capacity. Every difficult choice strengthens your will. Every refusal of the easy path expands your horizon. When you sweat in discipline, you bleed less in regret. The fourth brick is deadlines. Comfort feeds on delay. When you say someday, comfort smiles because it knows someday never comes. You need shock deadlines, real dates, public commitments. Say it out loud. By this date I will launch. By this date I will stand on that stage. By this date I will change. Pressure destroys the altar where comfort sits, and the final brick is celebration. Not the lazy celebration of doing nothing, but the proud celebration of conquering yourself. When you choose discomfort, when you resist the easy way out, mark it. Write it down. Smile at the battle you won, because each victory builds momentum, and momentum destroys the grip of comfort. Listen carefully. Comfort feels safe, but it is a trap. Discomfort feels dangerous, but it is the path. If you live for ease, you will die with regret. But if you live for growth, you will die fulfilled, knowing you did not waste the miracle of being alive. So tear down the altar. Refuse the false safety. Choose the path that tests you, stretches you, and demands your highest self. For that path, the uncomfortable one, is the only one that leads to greatness. There comes a point in your journey when the crowd disappears. The applause quiets. The people you thought would walk beside you vanish into their own comforts, their own distractions, their own limitations. And suddenly you look around and it's just you. The path winds upward, steep and silent. This is the lonely ascent, and it is where the great are separated from the ordinary. Most people fear solitude. They treat it like a punishment. They fill silence with noise, loneliness with shallow company, emptiness with endless distraction. But what they don't realize is this: solitude is not exile. Solitude is the forge. It is where raw metal is melted, hammered, and sharpened into something unbreakable. When you are alone, there's nowhere to hide. The excuses vanish. The crowd isn't there to cheer you, but they're also not there to judge you. There is only the mirror of your own actions. And in that mirror, you see the truth. Are you disciplined or are you drifting? Are you leading yourself or are you waiting for someone else to tell you what to do? The lonely ascent is where champions are born. It's in those late nights when you're working while others are sleeping. It's in those quiet mornings when you rise before the sun and push your body, your mind, your spirit. It's in those weekends when you choose progress over parties, purpose over comfort, destiny over distraction. But let's be clear, solitude isn't easy. There will be nights you question yourself. There will be days you doubt if it's worth it. Your heart will ache for companionship, for validation, for someone to say you're on the right track. But that ache is not a sign to quit. That ache is proof you are walking the road few dare to walk. Understand this. The higher you climb, the fewer companions you will find. Not because people are against you, but because most cannot breathe at the altitude of ambition. They suffocate where you are meant to thrive. So instead of resenting the loneliness, embrace it. Make it your ally. Turn silence into focus. Turn solitude into strategy. Greatness has always been lonely. Every innovator, every leader, every visionary was first misunderstood, doubted, ridiculed, and alone. They carried visions that others couldn't see. They bore burdens others couldn't lift, and they stayed the course when no one else believed. So don't fear the lonely ascent. Celebrate it. When the crowd leaves, it means you've stepped onto a path only the few dare to travel. And here's the secret. When you endure long enough, when you prove through your discipline and your vision that you belong, others will follow the trail you carved. But by then, you won't need their validation. You'll already know who you are. The lonely ascent is not a curse. It is a gift. It strips you of dependence. It hardens you with discipline. It clarifies your vision. And it proves one thing above all. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to rise. From the moment you were born, the world began whispering into your ears. Parents, teachers, society, traditions, religions, all feeding you scripts of what to believe, what to value, how to live. You were handed a ready-made law, a moral code not of your creation but of theirs. And so most people walk through life not truly alive, but as echoes, living secondhand values, following borrowed commandments, and mistaking obedience for virtue. But to truly live, to rise beyond the herd, you must forge your own law. Forging your law means tearing away the masks others gave you. It means refusing to be governed by borrowed rules that never came from your soul. It is not rebellion for rebellion's sake. It is creation, a rebellion that births a new compass crafted by your own hand, tested in the furnace of your own experience. To accept values untested is to live someone else's life. But to test them, to shape them, to refine them by fire and consequence, that is where your authenticity is born. Think about this. The rules you've been taught were designed for control, for order, for the survival of the group. They are safe, tame, predictable, but greatness is never born from safety. Progress never blooms in tame soil. Those who dare to rise must accept that they cannot simply borrow what others called good or evil. They must redefine those terms for themselves. They must stand in front of life and say, I will decide what strengthens me. I will decide what weakens me. And only what serves my highest becoming will remain. This is terrifying to the average soul, because it strips away certainty. No more prepackaged answers, no more commandments carved by other men. Instead, you stand naked before existence with only your courage to guide you. But in that vulnerability lies your power. The law you forge will not be brittle. It will be unbreakable because it came from your own sweat, your own struggle, your own confrontation with reality. Ask yourself, whose values are you still carrying? Whose approval are you still chasing? Whose definition of success still imprisons you? Perhaps you are working a job you despise because that's what responsible people do. Perhaps you are silent about your dreams because that's not practical. Perhaps you are living for comfort because someone told you comfort is the same as happiness. These borrowed values are not laws, they are chains. And the moment you forge your own law, you snap them. Forging your law is not about rejecting everything blindly. It is about testing everything brutally. Take each belief, each rule, each so-called value, and hold it up to the light of your experience. Ask, does this make me stronger or does it weaken me? Does this expand me or diminish me? Keep only what fuels your growth. Burn the rest. Over time, your code becomes your shield, your sword, your path. When you live by borrowed values, you are replaceable, forgettable, just another shadow in the crowd. But when you forge your law, you become undeniable. Your life ceases to be an imitation, it becomes a creation. And in that moment, you do not merely live, you reign. Every life, no matter how carefully lived, collides with suffering. Pain arrives uninvited, loss, failure, rejection, betrayal. Most recoil, treating suffering as an enemy, a punishment, a cruel twist of fate. But suffering is not the end of you. It is the raw ore placed in your hands. It is heavy, unrefined, even ugly at first glance. Yet hidden within it is the very material of your transformation. The question is not whether you will suffer. The question is whether you will refine that ore into fire, or let it rot inside you as dead weight. The weak allow suffering to paralyze them. They sit in the ashes of misfortune, clutching their wounds, repeating, "Why me?" They believe pain is unfair, and in that belief they surrender their power. But the strong understand that pain is not unfair, it is unavoidable. The only unfairness is wasting it. Every tear, every scar, every night of despair carries within it the energy of fire. To transmute suffering is to stand before the furnace of life and say, "I will not let this consume me. I will let this refine me." How do you do this? Step 1. Face the pain directly. Do not numb it. Do not run from it. Do not bury it under distraction. Sit with it. Feel its weight. Only when you confront it honestly can you see what lesson it carries. Step 2. Ask, what can this make me? Not why did this happen, but who can I become because of it? Shift the focus from victimhood to possibility. Step 3. Act. Channel the energy of suffering into motion. If betrayal taught you the fragility of trust, let it sharpen your discernment. If failure broke your pride, let it strengthen your resilience. If loss carved a hole in your heart, let that emptiness fuel your hunger for meaning. Each wound can either scar you into weakness or shape you into strength. Think of the blacksmith. He takes rough, unyielding metal, thrusts it into fire, hammers it against the anvil, and only through that violent process does the blade emerge. Without heat, without force, without struggle, the metal remains nothing more than dead weight. You are no different. Suffering is your fire, your hammer, your anvil. Each strike is painful, yes, but with every blow you are being shaped into something sharper, stronger, unstoppable. Do not envy those who claim to live without suffering. Their comfort is their prison. They will never taste the depth of strength that only fire can forge. It is the ones who suffered most deeply who rise with the fiercest power. Their resilience is not theory, it is battle-tested. Their wisdom is not borrowed, it was extracted from the flames. So when suffering comes, and it will, do not curse it. Grip it, drag it into the furnace of your will. Transmute it into discipline, clarity, hunger. Refuse to let pain be wasted, for the day will come when you will. Look back at the darkest nights of your life and realize they were not endings at all, they were the fuel that propelled your ascent. Most people are taught that saying yes is the noble path, that compliance makes you kind, agreeable, and good. From childhood, you are rewarded for obedience and punished for defiance, and so you grow into adulthood carrying the weight of borrowed obligations. drowning in commitments that strip away your freedom. But here is the truth. Greatness is not built on endless yeses. It is built on the noble art of saying no. Saying no is not destruction without purpose. Saying no is creation. It is the sculptor's refusal to keep the excess stone. It is the musician's refusal to play every note. It is the architect's refusal to build on weak foundations. Refusal is not absence, it is design. When you say no to what weakens you, you carve space for what strengthens you. Every yes to mediocrity is a no to mastery. Every yes to distractions is a no to focus. Every yes to the expectations of others is a no to the demands of your own soul. And if you never dare to say no, you will find yourself suffocated under the weight of a life that is not yours. To refuse is not selfish, it is sovereign. It is to declare, I will not give my time, my energy, my spirit to what diminishes me. I will reserve it for what builds me. This act requires courage because the world despises refusal. They will call you arrogant, unkind, rebellious, even cruel for turning away from what they demand. But understand this, their anger is not about your refusal, it is about their fear. Your no reminds them of the chains they still wear. Your refusal exposes their obedience, and so they will try to shame you back into compliance. But the noble act is to stand firm, to say with unshakable clarity, no, I choose differently. Think of history's giants, the artists, leaders, and visionaries who shifted the course of humanity. Each one had the courage to say no. No to conformity, no to shallow comfort, no to borrowed truths. Their refusal was not weakness, it was their power. It was the strike of the hammer that shattered false idols and cleared space for new creation. And you too must wield this hammer in your life. The act of saying no also sharpens your yes. When you refuse the hollow, your yes gains weight. It becomes deliberate, potent, unshakable. You do not scatter yourself across endless obligations. You pour yourself fully into what matters most. In that focus, your strength multiplies. Your life stops being an accident. It becomes a deliberate work of art. So the next time a demand confronts you, ask, does this strengthen me or weaken me? If it weakens you, let refusal be your architect. Speak the noble no, not in anger but in clarity. For every no you speak to weakness is a yes to your becoming, and one day, you will look at the life you have built and realize it was shaped not only by the doors you opened, but by the doors you refused to walk through. You are not a machine. You are not a cog in someone else's design. You are not here merely to repeat routines, pay bills, and vanish quietly into the earth. You are an artist, whether you realize it or not, and your canvas is your life. Every thought, every action, every refusal, every bold decision is a brushstroke. With each stroke, you either smear your canvas with mediocrity, or you create a masterpiece that astonishes even you. The tragedy is that most people never pick up the brush. They hand it to others, parents, teachers, bosses, society, and allow their lives to be painted by someone else's vision. And then years later, they stare at the canvas in despair, asking, why doesn't this life feel like mine? To become the artist of your life is to reclaim the brush. It is to stop living on autopilot, stop waiting for permission, and stop designing your existence for the applause of others. It is to say, I will create a life not to impress the crowd, but to prove to myself that I can. This shift is everything. Because when you stop living for their approval, you finally start living for your truth, and the canvas begins to take shape, not as a pale copy, but as an original work of art. The artist understands that each choice matters. No brushstroke is too small. The way you spend your mornings, the people you allow into your circle, the standards you uphold, the risks you take, all of it leaves marks on your canvas. At first, the strokes may seem insignificant, but step back after years of deliberate creation, and you will see a pattern, a vision, a life that was designed, not inherited. The masterpiece does not appear overnight. It is built through thousands of strokes, each one deliberate, each one aligned with the picture you dare to imagine. And here lies the test. Art requires courage. It requires imperfection. No artist creates without error, without messy beginnings, without moments of doubt. The coward avoids the canvas out of fear of failing. The brave pick up the brush anyway, knowing that even mistakes can be transformed into depth, into texture, into meaning. Your life will not be flawless. It is not meant to be, but it can be breathtaking, raw, authentic. If you are willing to keep painting, keep refining, keep daring, do not wait for life to hand you inspiration. Create it. Do not wait for the perfect moment. Begin now. Each day is a fresh canvas, each choice another stroke. Some strokes will be bold and radiant, others will be quiet and subtle. But together, they will weave a story that is yours alone. So look at your life today. Does it resemble a masterpiece or a forgery? If it is not yet what you desire, then take the brush back into your hands. Refuse to let another dictate your colors. Paint with risk. Paint with vision. Paint with hunger. Because one day the canvas will be complete, and when you step back to see it, you should not see regret. You should see a work of art that could have only come from you. It is easy to speak of greatness in theory, easy to imagine who you could become, easy to rehearse courage in the privacy of your thoughts. But theory without trial is vanity. A sword untested in battle is no sword at all, it is decoration. And so too, a life of untested beliefs, untested values, untested dreams remains hollow. If you wish to know your strength, you must measure it. If you wish to prove your soul, you must throw it into the fire of reality and see if it stands. The danger of comfort is that it tempts you into endless rehearsal. You plan, you dream, you prepare, but you never step into the arena, and so your life becomes an echo of potential, beautiful in possibility, empty in reality. The world does not reward what you could do. It rewards what you dared to test, to risk, to fight for. Until your courage has faced resistance, it is only fantasy. To test your strength in the world is not to wait for perfect conditions. It is to create trials for yourself. Set measurable challenges. Push your limits deliberately. If you claim discipline, prove it with action repeated over time. If you claim resilience, prove it by standing firm in storms. If you claim vision, prove it by executing one bold step after another. Each test you undertake reveals not only where you are strong, but where you are still weak. And this is no cause for shame. Weakness revealed is opportunity uncovered. It gives you a map for growth, a target to strike, a path to climb. Think of the warrior who sharpens his blade daily but never steps onto the battlefield. His sword gleams, but his spirit rusts. Contrast him with the warrior who enters the fight, blade nicked, armor dented, but alive with the knowledge of who he truly is. The dents, the scars, the bruises, these are proof of authenticity. They declare, I have tested myself against reality and I remain. That is strength no theory can imitate. Testing yourself is not about competing with others. It is about facing the person you were yesterday. Can you rise above them? Can you run farther, think sharper, create braver, endure longer? The true test is internal. The world is your mirror, reflecting whether your self-image is fantasy or fact. And each challenge is an invitation. Prove that your words are not hollow, that your dreams are not idle, that your will is not fragile. So set the trial. Step into the arena. Let the world press against you. Fail if you must. Failure is data. Failure is feedback. Failure is the hammer that shapes the blade. Rise again stronger, for in the end, it is not the theory of your strength that matters. It is the strength you forged by testing it, refining it, proving it. And when you stand at the summit, you will not wonder if you could have made it. You will know, because you tested yourself against the world and you prevailed. After the refusals, after the destruction, after the fire and the trials, there comes a moment that defines everything. The rebirth. You have said no to the chains that weakened you. You have forged your law. You have tested your strength against the world. Now you stand stripped of illusions, scarred but unbroken. And here, at this point, the most powerful act remains. Not a rejection, not a critique, but a full, unshakable yes. This yes is not shallow optimism. It is not blind positivity. It is not pretending the world is perfect. No, this yes is radical precisely because it includes the suffering, the chaos, the heartbreak, the failure. It looks at life in its raw totality, its beauty and its brutality, and says, I affirm it all. That is the eternal yes. The yes that does not wait for conditions to be favorable, but chooses to embrace existence exactly as it is, and to transform it through will and action. Why is this so vital? Because refusal alone is not enough. You can destroy what weakens you, but destruction leaves emptiness unless it is followed by affirmation. Refusal clears the ground. Affirmation builds the temple. Without the yes, you remain hollow, defined only by what you oppose. With the yes, you create, you unify, you weave meaning from the fragments. You say, I will not just endure life, I will love it, and through my love I will shape it. This yes is not abstract. It is embodied. It must be lived in your choices, in your actions, in the way you wake up each morning and face the day. To affirm life fully is to refuse the role of victim, even in pain. It is to say, Yes, I was broken, but I rise again. It is to embrace the risk of joy even knowing sorrow will follow. It is to create boldly even when the world may not understand. The eternal yes binds all your struggles into meaning, transforms scars into symbols, and fuses every act into a single affirmation. I was here, and I chose to live fully. Consider the difference. The one who lives half-heartedly, always waiting, always doubting, forever calculating, dies without ever saying yes to existence. Their canvas remains blank. But the one who affirms, who dares to say yes even when the cost is high, lives a life that blazes with significance. Their every step is infused with purpose. Their every act becomes a testament. The eternal yes is not for the timid. It requires the courage to face life without guarantees. It demands faith in your own power to create meaning even when none is given. But if you can embody it, if you can stand before life and declare, yes, I accept you, yes, I embrace you, yes, I will shape you, then you are truly reborn. You are no longer merely surviving. You are becoming endlessly, eternally rising without end.